Welcome to Jumpstart Your Joy. I'm your host, Paula Jenkins. I invite you to join me as we explore how inspiring people have chosen joy in their lives and what they have to share with us about how to jumpstart joy in the world. Plus, how do we follow our own hearts, find work that lights us up while mindfully noticing the role that joy plays in our own journey. Welcome to episode 97. This is Paula Jenkins, the host of Jumpstart Your Joy. This week, it's my true pleasure to have Mandy Ford joining me for an interview. Mandy is a graphic designer, and she returned to drawing after leaving it for many years when inspiration struck her in a writing class and she found herself doodling. This led to her posting her art on Instagram and landing a licensing deal with Home Goods after only 4 months. I love how Mandy has said yes to inspiration and how she followed so many of the nudges that she's gotten from God and the universe along the way. As she says about that moment that she returned to drawing, my soul knew something that it wasn't ready to tell me yet. I just know you're going to be delighted and inspired by Mandy. And so before we get to that, I want to say welcome, and I am so glad that you are here. Thank you so much for tuning in this week and for joining me as always. I publish show notes for each episode of Jumpstart Your Joy, and they include links to the guest site, additional references, and some of my thoughts about the topics. You can find them for this episode at jumpstartyourjoy.com/episode 97. If you are loving this show and have been listening, would you do me a big favor and share Jumpstart Your Joy with one person you know and someone you think that might like it too? I would just love it if you would send them the link of jumpstartyourjoy.com in an email, a text, or a tweet today so they can listen along as well. If you love what you hear and you want to subscribe, you can find Jumpstart Your Joy on iTunes and TuneIn. And to find the show, just search for Jumpstart Your Joy and then click on the cover art and you'll see a full listing of all the episodes. You can listen to any of the shows there, and you'll want to be sure and hit subscribe so you can automatically get each new episode delivered as it's released on Tuesdays. And while you're over there, of course, if you want to bring more joy into your life, I'm going to give you a big invitation to sign up for my free Joy Plus You Unleashed e-class, where I walk you through lots of easy ways to find room for joy in your everyday. Mandy Ford is joining me today to share about how she has returned to design and drawing after drifting away from it for many years. She's been blogging for 11 years, and she is the mother of twin boys. And I just love hearing about how joy and the decision to follow it has played a part in her journey. She is a super talented designer, and she's been working on scrapbooking sets for Illustrated Faith. She teaches classes at Skillshare, and she has prints at Home Goods. And she does all this while still working a full-time job at Earlham College. She's also been very lovingly working on a brand new logo for my show, and I am so thrilled to have her join me this week. So let's get on to the show with Mandy Ford. Welcome to the podcast. Today we have an interview with Mandy Ford. Welcome to the show, Mandy. I am so excited you're here.
Thanks, Paula. Thanks for having me.
Yay! I am just really excited to get to talk to you. I'll just call it out in the beginning because you're helping me out with some of the design stuff for my own site, and it's been such a total joy to get to work with you and get to meet you.
Oh, ditto. I'm excited to be creating some fun stuff for you.
Yes, thank you. You seem to just know me and put that on paper, and I've never heard of anyone do that for me before, so thank you.
Oh, that's a huge compliment. So,
well, so the first question I ask everybody is, as a child, what were your earliest sparks of joy?
Yeah, I love that question. And I got my brain going this morning, writing down different things. The first thing that popped in my head was rocks. Because I was a rock collector as a kid. It was one of my favorite things. I had a box full of, and not just rocks from, the park or something, but gemstones. And there was a little rock shop my parents would take me to every time we would go. I'd get to pick out a new little treasure. And I just loved rocks and just nature in general. So that was the first thing that came to mind, which is something I still love. I've loved my whole life. And then just pattern and color and stationery and stickers and all that kind of stuff I've loved since I can remember. Just, folders with cool patterns on them, like when you go school supply shopping. That was my
Yes.
favorite. Like was it Lisa Frank? Like those really colorful folders and stickers. And I was just thinking yesterday about I loved Poochie, which was this dog. Little
Yes.
stuff. Do you remember Poochie?
I totally remember Poochie. That's awesome.
I loved Poochie, and I had I know I had some Poochie stuff, but I can't remember what it was. But like little stamps. I think I had stamps and stickers and stuff like that. So yeah, just those are the main things I thought of. And just I loved cartoons even through like high school. It drove my sister crazy because I watched cartoons way past the age she thought was appropriate. But
Yes.
my older sister. And I still, now I have kids, so we watch a lot of cartoons.
Yes.
Now too, but different than I watch because I have boys, so different cartoons. But
yeah, I have a boy as well, and I have tried to push him. I'm a cartoon pusher, but I guess it's not even really a cartoon, but like Fraggle Rock, like
right, yes,
and Smurfs, and like there's just a whole bunch of them that I'm like, here, I'm sure you would love these,
right? Yeah, like some of that stuff has come around and it's on again, which is fun. It reminds you of your childhood, which is cool.
Yeah, totally cool. And I love that you said rocks. Like as you said that, it's so funny because I have special memories of kind of going to the rock shop. I don't even know if that's a thing, but like there were like all those tumbled and polished rocks. I don't know. There was something about just picking which one you wanted that was so satisfying. I love it.
Definitely. I still can remember that rock shop and the little white cardboard boxes that the rocks ran with a little label that said what they were. And yeah. And there's a rock show here in town at once a year. I took my boys to the last couple years and they love it too. So that makes me extra happy.
I'm going to have to find the rock show.
Yeah.
So would you like to tell us a little bit about what it is that you do now?
Yeah. So, I am trying to think where to start. I feel like I have lots of different hats right now. I work full time during the day, not art related, at a seminary. I do marketing and fundraising and event planning and stuff like that. But then in the evening and on the weekends, I do my art. So I'm an illustrator and a lettering artist, and I'm just experimenting right now with lots of different things. There's nothing I don't want to make. It feels like. So there's that. And then just, being mom and wife and all of that too. So yeah, it's a lot, but it's all good stuff. So it's great.
Amazing. And that is so funny. My background is religious studies, so I didn't even realize you were at a seminary during the day.
Yes. That's so funny.
I know. I'm like, wow, that's a new thing to know. So what seminary are you at?
I work at the Earlham School of Religion. It's a Quaker seminary.
Awesome.
Which is very unique. There aren't very many Quaker seminaries. It's pretty much the only one really left. Yeah. And I'm not Quaker, but it's worn off of me quite a bit. There's a lot of things about Quakerism that I enjoy, especially the silence.
What impact has being at a Quaker seminary had on maybe you or even your art? Has it changed things for you?
Well, I will say that I started drawing again because of someone I met here, working here. So I would not be talking to you. I think I would have found my art again anyway, but it wouldn't look the way it looks now if I didn't work here, which I never would have thought the two would connect in that way. But yeah, so that's a huge, working here has been a huge life change for me in lots of ways, including my art. I think the biggest thing about Quakerism is like the silence I said, but also the idea that everyone is equal. We're all, part of humanity in an equal way. And that idea kind of permeates everything we do here. And so it's I kind of already believed that. Being around people that work towards that kind of goal every day has been really inspiring and helpful. And I've grown a lot as a person working here because of the people I'm around.
Yeah. I can understand that. I mean, I led retreats at a Franciscan retreat center for a long time. And while I'm not Franciscan, It's kind of strange, they let a Lutheran in, but there was something about, I love what you just said. There's something about the way the presence and the space and the prayer of St. Francis, quite frankly, kind of washed over me and just kind of settled in. That's just who I am. And it doesn't come out that much. I mean, it's not a day-to-day thing that I talk about like here on the podcast, but it's always there it's omnipresent in the background, always. It's like, how can I be of service? How can I bring peace? How can I be love? How can I get out of my own way to bring the divinity in? Like all those questions all the time. But I think it's interesting. I don't know if you feel or see the same thing for yourself in being in a space that's so religious and purposeful.
Yeah. It's helped ground me in a lot of ways. And like just the language, like discernment, something, they talk about a lot in seminary in general, but like it's a very Quaker thing. And, when we have meetings, we try to come to a consensus on decisions. It's, you don't vote on things, and it's, it's just very equal. Nobody uses titles. So just that kind of idea of the way you interact with people has, really rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
And I think I help put that out, like when I'm interacting with my family or with other people that don't work here or around this all the time. I think that I've started to kind of wear off on them too.
I love that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's so much good stuff. I've only been to a Quaker meeting once. I think it was in when I was at grad school, and it was it's a moving experience for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many different types too, just like any religion. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. How has it been kind of balancing, and balance is such a loaded word, and we'll get to that last question at the end, but I mean, I'm also a 9-to-5 person and then have a family and other stuff, the podcast and coaching and all this, but how do you find that working for you, or how do you make space for each of the things that you find in your life?
Yeah. I won't say it's easy. It is a challenge. And I think since I discovered my art again, I love it so much. And I know that I'm meant to be doing it, that I just find the time. A lot of times I just stay up way too late. I'm going to be 39 in August, and I'm starting to notice that I can't stay up as late as I used to. I used to be a night owl, and that's starting to change because I'm just tired earlier. But I'm getting more art jobs now, which is really exciting, but I'm starting to have a little bit of trouble balancing it, that I wasn't having before. So I'm starting to realize I'm going to have to become more organized. I'm not an organizer. I'm not a detail-oriented type person, even though I have to do a lot of that in my job. I don't have a planner. I'm thinking maybe I need to buy a planner.
Yeah.
Keep track of things better. So yeah, I just stay up, too late. That's kind of my secret.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the secret. My own secret as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And totally hear you there. Like I'm 45 and have noticed that no, this is just not working.
Yeah.
I need more
I'm
sleep.
So tired today. I stayed up way too late. Yeah. But my kids are older, which helps. Like when they were babies, I wasn't even drawing when they were babies. Now that they're 9, I can work on things while they're playing, and I don't have to watch them, like I used to. So that helps a lot too.
Yes, I fully agree. I think there's a major shift that happened. I don't know if you saw it around the 5-year, 6-year mark, where no, they really can go be on their own, and they don't need me or he doesn't need me all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird and awesome at the same time.
It is. Yeah. Now I just want to hold him on my lap and hope he never grows up.
Right. I know. It's bittersweet.
It's so bittersweet. Yeah. Well, and so what led you back to drawing? I know you've been blogging since 2008. So you've had an outlet there for a while, but what led you back to kind of the art? I sense there's a story kind of in there maybe.
Okay. I think I drew all through my childhood and through high school, and I don't really know why specifically I quit. I think it was a mix of, starting college and thinking, okay, I have to do something responsible and get a adult job, and art just didn't seem to fit that bill. And I had kind of an art experience with a teacher that threw me off. I think I just got really self-conscious, and I didn't want anybody. I tried to take a drawing class in college, and I dropped it because I couldn't handle anybody watching me draw, which is so funny to me now because now I don't care. But so yeah, I didn't draw pretty much from like maybe 19 until 4 years ago. So 35, 34. How old am I? 34. And so I was taking a writing class here at the seminary. We have these 2-week intensive classes, and there was a creative writing class. And I basically only signed up for it because the teacher is a really good friend of mine. And she was teaching adjunct for us at the time, and she was going to be going back to Nashville where she lives. And I wanted to spend as much time with her as I could while she was here. So I signed up to audit her class. I was amazed at the writing that came out of me in that class because I don't really do a lot of writing other than, blog type writing. Mm-hmm. But from the first day walking into that class, I have never had this feeling before or since. I just had this overwhelming feeling of something really wonderful was going to happen. And I had no clue what it was. I was honestly in a really frustrated place with life in general at the time. And I was feeling really just raw and anxious and scared about the future. And that class felt like kind of a safe place, like something was going to happen in there that was going to help me get out of that. But I had no clue what it was going to be. And we had us do a doodling prompt in the class. And I doodled just some words down, something really simple. And I started sharing those on my Instagram. And I mean, that was it. That was in May, 4 years ago. And by December, I had a licensing deal with an art canvas company. I mean, it just happened really quick. I don't know. I don't know if everybody will get to experience that kind of feeling, but I hope so. Because it was like my soul, I even wrote this in the class, like my soul knows something that it isn't ready to share with me yet. That's how it felt. It was a very overwhelming, just really awesome feeling. And nothing else is compared to that since. And it did, my drawing started then and it just took off.
I mean, there's so much right there, like that you said yes to whatever it was. Because I think, I don't know, it's hard sometimes to listen for those moments where maybe you sensed a little bit of inspiration or just that kind of sense of like, I need to go do this and don't quite know why. Yeah. It's so easy to turn away from that when life is busy, or it sounded like you were also in a tough, other things felt hard, I guess, but yeah. I don't know. Do you know what, other than it was your friend and you wanted to spend time, was there anything else in there where you were like, yeah, I just got to follow this?
I don't know. I think when I started sharing the little doodles on my Instagram, and they were very simple. Mm-hmm. The reaction people, I started just getting such a nice reaction to them that it just kept encouraging me to keep going. And I realized that I'd just completely forgotten that I liked to draw. And it just happened so naturally and organically. I don't remember thinking, should I do this or not? It was just, yeah, like, this is what I'm doing. And I didn't start out thinking that it would become anything that could become a job or something that people would want to like buy or pay for. It was really just, a lot of the first doodles I share were really just things like to encourage people. And that's still what I do. I mean, that's one of my main goals, is to just encourage people and help them to feel like they're okay and, just the way they are, and that kind of thing. Yeah, it was never really a question of should I do this or not.
I love that, because I know I've experienced it too, where it's like, this is just I've started calling it a full body yes. Like there's no question. It's just, this is the thing and I'm going to run towards it. Yeah, the show is often that way for me, or guests have become that way for me when I just know. And I'm like, yep, I want to talk to them. It's just,
yes, you can't really explain why you know something, you just know.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that you followed that, because I think there's so much, I anticipate there was so much joy in then that moment where you're like, my soul knows something that it isn't ready to tell me yet.
Yeah. Yes, it was, God, it was just, I mean, if you want to get religious, it was a God thing or spirit or universe or whatever. I mean, it was just not, of the world.
Yes. And I think those are, like I said, so easy to like say, oh, well, that's just, it's trying to distract me or whatever, but really listening, because clear too that then that led you back to a deeper purpose and maybe something you'd forgotten or that had gotten pushed aside for a while.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. I love it. So what does the process look like now as you approach a new piece or a new doodle, or when you want to explore the inspiration that hits you?
Gosh, it's so random. It's hard to say exactly. It depends on what, like some things, like if I'm creating a logo for someone, have more of a specific, like they tell me what they want and I have, kind of a plan of how I'm going to create it. But then a lot of the pieces I create, it's just something that hits me that day, or, I'll see a quote that I really love, or I'm having a really particularly hard or anxious day and I need to hear the words that I write or draw. And I know that if I need to hear them, somebody else probably does too. So it's a lot of it just intuition and what I feel like making that day. And I'm trying really hard to follow that more and more, and not overthink things too much, which I'm really good at.
Yes.
It's actually getting a little harder now that I'm trying to make more of a career out of it, because I'm questioning everything I do more, because I want to make good choices and good decisions with my time, because it is so limited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm struggling a bit with that, but I'm going to set up a few sessions with some like creative coaches to help me kind of work through that, because I think I need to do that.
Yes, I love that. I think
letting drive myself crazy, but
yeah, well, and honing the intuition but also the purposeful side of it. I think as things change, revisiting those things is so helpful sometimes.
Yeah.
Ooh, and I really the idea of let it be easy. I'm paraphrasing for you, but one of another past guest and now delightful friend, Christy Tending, talks a lot about that in the regard of self-care. But like, I love that you were saying that it's kind of that mindful practice of seeing it and letting something be easy instead of, my brain does it too, like letting it become complicated and thinking it out to the nth degree.
Yeah. Art can't be like, you overthink it too much, it won't be your best work.
Yeah. Those are words of wisdom.
Experience, I guess, so far. I mean, I still feel like I'm very early in the journey. The more I overthink something, the less comes out. It just all gets stuck.
I can see that in my own life as well. I think there's a lot of wisdom packed into that. Yeah.
It can apply to anything, I think, not just drawing.
So you mentioned that 4 years ago in May, you picked up drawing again, and then by December, you'd had a licensed deal. How have you approached putting your work out there in more of a commercial way? How has that worked? And maybe how has that felt? Like, how did you navigate that as a person?
Oh, it's interesting. That first, and I still have a contract with this company that the one home goods deal came from. And that was a really hard process for me, because the process of licensing your art is really slow. I mean, it takes forever, at least so far in my experience. And I was not patient that first time, and I drove myself crazy. And when the art finally, I got, that's the only time I've had something licensed so far, really, was some canvases through Home Goods, which was super exciting. But it also was a case where they changed the art quite a bit. Mm. And I wasn't happy with how it looked with the final product. And I realized through the contract that I had no say in that. And I learned a lot from that. I never actually saw one in person, which is weird too. Like, I got pictures from friends, but we don't have a Home Goods near here. So I never saw one in person, which is really odd to have your art in a store and never get to actually touch it or see it. But so that first one was clumsy and awkward, and I cried a lot. And it's really funny to me to think back on it now, because I've become so much more patient, and I can look at my art kind of outside of my ego a lot better, which is helpful. So like right now I'm doing these journaling kits with Illustrated Faith, these digital Bible journaling kits. And that's been really fun, exciting, and unexpected thing. They just found me through Instagram. It wasn't something I was seeking out. And I used to scrapbook a ton. I loved scrapbooking. I've always wanted to create scrapbooking products. So when they approached me, I was like, yes, I will, I will do that. Yeah. So working on these kits with them has been a really good learning process. And I'm getting a lot of practice in kind of that industry and what, they're looking for. And I'm doing a lot more digital stuff on my iPad, which is fun. That's kind of a new toy that I've only had for a few months. So it's just a big learning curve in lots of ways.
It's interesting, the Instagram piece. I adore the Instagram.
Yes, me too.
It's
Even with the new
funny.
algorithm, I still love it.
I know. Yeah, there's weeks that go by that I don't post anything, but then
Yeah.
I've got to say, I've found a lot of people that I don't know that somehow it's easy to remain as close as you can in Instagram, but with close to them. And it's
Yeah.
funny how that's created some friendships and relationships.
Yeah, me too.
So I don't know, do you have any tips or thoughts on someone if they're like, wait, Instagram for business? Like, I don't know,
Right.
how do you approach it, or how have you seen the greatest success in using Instagram in a business sense?
Well, I mean, obviously, number one, good pictures are really important. And I still kind of struggle with, the photography aspect because it's like there's so much competition. Everybody's a good photographer now.
Yeah.
But I think when I first started sharing, hashtags are really important. And I just did a lot of research on like what hashtags are, I should use for, exposure for the kind of people I want to see my art. But I think more than that, because I don't really like thinking of it in a business way.
Mm-hmm.
I like think of it as just connecting with people because that's my favorite thing. I just love connecting with people and being able to share, shared feelings and being like, me too. I love that moment where somebody replies to something you post and they're like, yes, that's how I feel too. Or that's my favorite part about Instagram. So anymore when I share my art, I try really hard to think, what can I share that will connect with people and help them today? Not just, saying, oh, look what I made. Because for the most part, you want to help people get something out of what you're sharing. You don't want it to just be all about you, because that doesn't benefit anyone else. And I've been blown away by some of the people I've met through Instagram who've just become really awesome online friends, they'll probably never meet in person. But yeah, it's a really awesome community, and the support and all the artists that I follow now. And I don't know, it's wonderful. I don't know what I would do without that connection to people every day.
Oh, yeah. Let's jump back to the piece about working with brands or,
Yeah.
I don't know, commercialization of things. If somebody is curious about either how to get started in that, or I don't know, or wants to explore more about that, is there a place you would recommend for someone to kind of check out if they were, or a piece of advice that you might have if somebody's like, yeah, I'd really like to try and get my stuff into home goods or with another place?
Gosh, it's so hard to say because so much of this for me has been completely organic, like nothing I sought out or was like, I want this to happen, so I'm going to contact this person. I'm starting to do more of that. Gosh, because Instagram, I think that's why the algorithm bugs me some days, because Instagram has pretty much been the main place where I've been found. I think, gosh, connecting with people is like my biggest advice, because connecting with people and continuing to learn as much as you can about what you want to do. Like you had mentioned in our emails, the pattern camp class with Jessica Swift. So I took that class solely because I wanted to, for one, I love Jessica and I love her art.
Yeah.
But and I thought, to be taught by Jessica, that's so cool. But then I just wanted to learn how to make patterns. And that class, I learned how to make patterns, but the connections, like we have a Facebook group, and the support and the encouragement, and everybody in that group is so wonderful, and they all we share with each other. And if somebody's like, oh, I don't know how to do this, somebody else teaches you. And the connections I made art wise is just invaluable. Yeah. So, you just got to keep putting yourself out there, keep learning and keep connecting with people. And it will all, things just connect in the weirdest ways that you don't expect to ever happen. At least that's been my experience so far. Like the classes, the drawing classes I'm going to be teaching with big picture classes. I have a friend, Lisa, who works for them, and we met years ago online through scrapbooking. She worked for a scrapbooking website, and she was kind of my scrapbooking mentor. And we're Facebook friends, and so we have been for years. And she reached out to me back in January or something to see if I'd want to teach these online drawing classes. And never would have ever expected that connection to lead to teaching drawing classes, because I didn't even draw back then. So I love that, how, things can just turn in ways you never expect, just through that friendship.
Yeah, it kind of the daisy chain of events or the through line
Yeah.
of life is so fascinating and so funny that Jessica Swift comes up. Because I have to say, like, she's one of my through lines. I mean, years ago, probably 2008, 2009, she had an old blog before she even published her book with Michelle Ward, but she's eventually the person that then led me to Michelle Ward just by
Okay.
their connection. And
I
then
remember that book. I didn't buy it, but I remember seeing.
the Declaration of You.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good one. You should go pick it up.
I should.
I'll put a link in the show notes for everyone, but
Yes.
it's about finding your creative, I don't know, kind of your creative purpose and
Yeah.
defining it. And I think the last part of it is shouting it from the rooftops. Those two are magical together. And funny. But yeah, just I love what you've said about putting yourself out there and also just like giving yourself the space to explore. Because I would have never, I mean, I started a blog and had no idea why.
Yeah.
Like, but then it was like I found her, and then I found all these other things, and then that turned into a podcast. So,
Right. Yeah. You
it's
just never
funny.
know what's gonna come up for you if you just keep. I keep seeing this all over the place. People saying just take the next right step. Like just keep taking one step after another, just doing what you think is right, and it'll all pile up into something awesome at the end. You just have to keep trusting that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's that trust. I mean, maybe that comes down to faith or
Yes.
whatever, or just kind of tapping into who you know you are on the inside, but just trusting it's going to be okay. And I know that's hard. That's hard.
It is hard. It's a daily struggle.
So true. Yeah. Because,
I try to encourage people through my art, but it's always just for my own sake too, because life's just hard.
Yeah. Well, and talk about that for a minute, because I know a lot of people, maybe, I know in creative pursuits, the argument would be, well, I don't have time. But
Yeah.
I feel like when I've followed the thing, whatever it is, it feels like it's kind of I'm going to say the balm or whatever, but like it offers itself in a way to me that like makes everything else easier. And I think you kind of hit it on that, talking about how much you love it and you make time for it. But I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit more too.
Gosh, it all just feels, I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but it's just very magical because, as soon as I start getting down or feeling like, okay, something's not going to work out, something else pops up just at, the right time. I don't know. Like I said before, just continuing to follow your intuition and what you think you should be doing and what feels right. It's all just, there's nothing logical about it really. So it's hard to explain unless, I don't know. I want everybody to have that happen for them.
Mm-hmm.
I hate when I hear people say how miserable they are in their job or, whatever path they're on, because I want everybody to find, that thing, that their purpose. And it doesn't have to be a paying job, but, the thing that they were given before they're even born, that was just put there for them to put out into the world, because we all have one. We just don't all get the pleasure of figuring it out while we're alive, I guess.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So well stated.
Oh, thank you.
Gave me
I'm
goosebumps.
very philosophical today.
Yeah. Well, what is the work? And this could be art or it could be anything, I guess. What's the work you're most proud of?
Being a mom is like the thing I'm most proud of, because I'm doing it. I mean, it's, okay. And you might've seen, I don't know if you look at Instagram stories at all, but so yesterday, my boys, they're 9 years old. They're both pretty crafty and artistic, which makes my heart very happy. And they're taking they're in art camp this summer. It's just 2 afternoons a week, and they go to the park and they make all sorts of crafty things. Yesterday they made books, and we were leaving and we pulled onto the highway, and my son's book he had his window down, it flew right out the window. And they both started crying like immediately, like they were already so attached to these books they had made. And of course I parked the car in the median and I ran out. I ran out to this 4 lanes of traffic and got his book. It's like, I don't know. I think just the whole process of motherhood, like how brave you have to become, and humble, and it's changed me in ways I never thought it would. And you just don't know until you go through it. But anything I do with my art or anything else, I don't think I could be any more, proud of than just forming these two human beings, and hopefully, not screwing them up too much along the way.
Yeah.
And, like I talked about running out to get that book, because that's something that Mandy about 10 years ago wouldn't have done, because I've had to fight a lot of, I was raised with a lot of encouragement, but also I don't know, I've had to get over a lot of feelings of expecting something to always go wrong, like expecting the worst. Even though I know I have talent, I've kind of had to fight this kind of battle in my mind of, yeah, you're good at this, but you shouldn't push yourself too hard, or you shouldn't go for too much, because it's probably not going to work out. So that's been something I've really had to try to push through, because I can kind of sabotage myself when things start getting too good. Yeah. And I kind of push myself back, so that's been a real struggle for me, and I'm really proud of the fact that I've realized that and that I'm working through that. And motherhood has certainly forced me into that as well, because you want to give the best example for your kids, and you want to teach them to be confident and brave and all that stuff that, on most days you don't feel like being yourself.
Yes.
I don't want to be brave today, but my kids are watching me. So,
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Because it does put you outside of yourself, maybe in a strange way.
Yeah.
And that can be I've found it to be like both in actions and deeds and things that I say to other people. Like I always want to be a good example of how we can be to each other. But also just in the middle of the night accidents when you have to go clean up whatever, it's like, I'd really rather be sleeping. And so it's that constant,
And I fail miserably. Sometimes, we can't be brave and courageous all the time. Especially in the middle of the night when there's, sheets that are wet or whatever.
Yeah. You understand my, where I was going with that. Yeah.
Yes, totally.
My tip, buy an extra set of everything, including the bed sheets, like the sheets and the little mattress guard, everything. Buy it all, two pairs.
My boys have bunk beds, so especially when it's the top bunk in the middle of the night,
That's a lot. Yeah. Oh, boys. They're funny.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can feel what you're saying about that. I don't know. I feel like someone's work recently has called it the upper limiting beliefs, where when you bump up against that thing that you feel like, okay, this is more than I'd ever dreamed of. And then somehow the voice inside says, you should play smaller.
Yeah. Like, who are you? Like that's the thing that comes in my head. Like, yeah, so-and-so has a, awesome art career, but who do you think you are? Like, that's not what you're made for. And then I have to say, no. That could happen to me too, and talk back a little bit to that voice.
Yes. I have a healthy dialogue with that inner kid/critic all the time.
Yeah.
It is interesting because I think there's a parallel there with knowing your own inner space and kind of those things that came up from when you likely were a child, but also seeing your own child, like kind of I talk to my inner self the same way I talk to my son sometimes.
Right. Oh yeah. Gosh. It's just, it's a challenge. Yeah. Cause my boys are twins, but they're totally different. So I see parts of me in both of them, different parts of me. And it's fascinating and terrifying at the same time.
I love it. Yes. Oh yes. That's awesome. So if somebody is curious about finding you, where can they find you on the internet or on Instagram?
Yeah, pretty much on almost every social media platform. It's Mandy Ford Art, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And then my website's just mandyford.co, no M, just CO. Yeah, and I'm on Instagram, like that's my thing. So I post, if I don't post on a day, I'm probably sick or something, because if I don't make something new, I post something.
And let's see, you said you also had some classes coming up. Is it with big picture classes?
Yes. Yeah. So the first one will be doodling. Doodling nature is what it's called, and it will be, I think it will go up in August. I'm not sure exactly. I haven't seen the videos. We haven't finished that much of it yet other than the filming. So, but they told me August probably for that one. And then in October, I think will be the second class, and it's creating a lettering piece with your own handwriting. So kind of making hand lettering out of your own handwriting. So I'm excited about that one.
Yes, I love it. I love that the doodling nature piece too. It seems like it ties back to the old love of the rocks and all that way back.
Yes, and clouds. I'm obsessed with clouds, so that's the main thing I draw in that class is clouds. So yeah, I could stare at clouds all day.
Yes, me too. Well, we will either link to it or you can find them in the show notes, depending on when this goes up. So let's jump to the last couple questions. We kind of talked about balance a little bit, but I don't know if you have a little bit more you want to add around what does balance look like for you day to day? Or some people prefer the question phrased as, how do you maintain harmony in your life?
Yeah, over the last few years, I've really learned how to say no. I grew up as a major people pleaser, and I think a lot of that, so my dad was a minister, so I was a preacher's kid. So life was a lot about just, appearances and keeping people happy and being the perfect role model child. So, nothing against that, a great childhood, but I realized, I can't be a people pleaser anymore because it was wearing me down. So I only say yes to things I really want to do. And I make sure I have space to, just sit and relax or read, or thankfully my art, my drawing is relaxing for me. So when I'm working on an art piece, I'm working and, relaxing at the same time most of the time. I don't know. And I've seen a lot of parents talking about summer break, how they're busier than they are during the school year with their kids. And we have the one art camp. That's all my boys are doing. My favorite thing about summer is not being scheduled. So I think you got to have time to relax. And some people love being busy. I don't. I have to have a lot of downtime. So it's just being really intentional with planning your time and knowing your limits. And my limits are pretty, I don't know what word to use for that. I can't be super busy, or I burn out really quick. Yeah. So learning your limits and sticking to them, and saying no and not feeling bad about it.
Yes. The permission to say no is.
Yeah. Because people will be weirded out by it, because people want you to do things for them, and, can't do everything.
No. I love that. I love that answer. Well, and then last and most joyfully, what are 3 ways that you can think of to jumpstart joy in your life, in the world, or in other people's lives?
Okay, I love that too. And I wrote down a bunch of little notes. So I'm going to think of my favorite things. Okay, so one, I was just talking about how much I love clouds. So I heard somebody say or read something the other day about how we all need to take time to look up, because we're all either looking down at our computer, or our phone, or whatever, to look up, to look at the sky, to look at the trees. Nature isn't inspiring for everybody, but I think it can be a metaphor for just taking a break from whatever you're doing, but just take time to look up, to take deep breaths, to relax. Because I think a lot of us get so tense and anxious and, worked up about everything we have to get done. And, you can't go on like that. And you can't give to others if you're constantly stressed out like that. So, yeah, so that would be one, just looking up, taking breaks. And then that one kind of ties into just being kind. That's kind of my biggest thing in life, is just focusing on being kind. Because I have a lot of anxiety, and I've figured out how to work through it. But a lot of times my anxiety comes out as crankiness, and I don't like that. So I think being focused on being kind to people, and, it can be the smallest thing, just smiling and talking to the cashier at the store. Obviously being kind with your family, sometimes we can let all of our crankiness out with the people we love the most, and that's not good. So that's just something I try and focus on a lot, especially if I find myself falling into that cranky hole. It's to just focus on being kind. It's so simple, but it's so hard too some days. And then the last one, I'm just giving freely to people. That's something I'm working on too, because I think a lot of times when we give, we expect something back. And I think that's maybe just human nature. But I've learned that, like I said before, I've learned that through the artists that I've met, how generous they are with their advice and encouragement. And it's taught me a lot about giving without expecting anything in return. And a lot of times when you do that, you get something back that you didn't expect. So that's another thing I'm trying to focus on too, is just not having an agenda with people, just giving just for the sake of helping them, and feeling good about that and seeing somebody thrive just because of a kind word you gave them, or like somebody asking me the other day how to do something in Photoshop, and I was like, oh, I know how to do that, and telling them how to do it. Or that just feels good, and it does come back to you in ways you never expect.
Yes. Ooh, I love all of them very much. Thank you, Mandy, so much. It's been a total joy to get to talk to you. So thank you for being on the show.
So nice. Thank you for asking me.
Mandy, thank you so much for joining me this week and for all the inspiration you put out there for all of us. It's a true joy getting to talk with you and to learn more about your journey and how you got to where you are today. If you would like to work with Mandy or see more of her work, I highly recommend her. You can find her at mandyford.co, or to find out how you can follow her on Instagram and find all of those other great links, you can find the show notes for this show at jumpstartyourjoy.com/episode 97. And if you were inspired by this conversation, or maybe you know somebody who is following their dreams right now and who could use a little boost to their day, would you share this podcast with them? You can send your friend the link, jumpstartyourjoy.com/episode 97. So next week on the podcast, I'll be doing a brand new solo cast, looking back on the lessons of the last 2 years, oh my gosh, of podcasting. I started recording my very first interviews about 2 years ago, right around this time. I have learned a ton, and I have met a lot of amazing guests, and just really love getting to learn and know more about the podcasting community. I want to share some of the top lessons and reflections I have on how this amazing show has changed me, what I have learned, and a little bit of what to expect for the upcoming season number 3. I cannot believe it has been that long. So I hope you'll come back and join me next week. And until then, I hope that your days are filled with so much joy.